and welcome to the Mosquito Fire Community Information Meeting for Monday, September 12th. My name is Nathan Judy, Fire Information Officer for California Incident Command Team 5. This evening you will hear from members of the Unified Command Team and our cooperators. After the formal briefing, we will answer questions emailed earlier online, and during the meeting or after the meeting, we will address comments, questions that were submitted in chat earlier. The fire currently it's at 48,700 acres, 16% contained. 2,675 personnel are assigned to this fire. Starting us off tonight is going to be Operations Section Chief Ernie Villa.
Good evening. My name is Ernie Villa, Planning Ops here with Team 5. I'll give you kind of an overlay of what we've got going on here. So start off over here in the west side of the fire along Baltimore Ridge here. Fire still continues to be mopped up and secured all the way down into the bottom of the American River. We'll be continuing to gain containment on this area here. So from Forest Hill heading north around the fire, we continue to mop up and secure all the way up past Michigan Bluff, all the way towards the northern end of the fire there that you could see on your map. Moving further north past the fire there, we do have some contingency lines that are proposed at this time as the ground resources continue to develop a plan to come across the north and east sides of the fire. As far as the fire itself, it still remains pretty active along the fire's edge, as you can see, indicated by the red line with hash marks. We are continuing to operate in that area, working with our cooperators that have pre-existing fuel breaks in that area. We're also looking at utilizing some of the pre-existing burn scars that have control features in place that we'll be looking at utilizing. Coming around the bottom end of the fire, still fairly active coming in this area here until you get to the southern part of the fire here where we have a control line where we've been able to contain or control, and then we will continue to mop up and secure the bottom end of this fire as well, coming all the way back in towards just west of Volcanoville. Successful day today. The crews were able to come off the top of Buckeye. They were able to continue to take the fire down into the American River. They were able to tie all that in. That is all looking good right now. We'll continue to monitor that area over the next few days, but overall in this section, things went pretty well today operationally. End of report.
Thank you, Ernie. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to have our fire behavior analyst, Jonathan Pangburn.
Good evening. There was a slight mixing of the air with a little bit of wind movement today. We specifically had that persistent southwest flow that's starting to push the fire deeper into the forested areas, but that's good news for the communities such as the Forest Hill, Volcanoville, and Quintet communities. Moving up into this northeastern portion of the fire, we observed fire coming up into the crowns of trees or torching in groups, and it really started to move with some of the limited airflow that we have today. We're expecting that airflow to increase a little bit tomorrow and especially into Wednesday. So we're expecting a little bit of an uptick in fire behavior. And I want to touch on that. We are seeing historically dry fuels. Here we have a chart of the ERC or energy release component of the fuels in the fire area. If you'll note, this blue line is the current year, and up here you can see we are breaking records in this particular fire area. What the energy release component means is it's a conglomerate of the live and dead fuels or vegetation that is available to burn, and it's a composite of how dry and how much energy they would release in the event of a fire situation. And so this, I just wanted to point out that we are seeing historic values in this particular area. So it's presenting a challenge to firefighters, and that is why they're building containment line further out to the east and putting together a plan with cooperators using their existing fuel breaks. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Next up with us, we're going to have PG&E's Government Affairs, Brandon Sanders.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Brandon Sanders. I am a senior representative with PG&E's Local Government Affairs Group. Here this evening to provide you with an update on PG&E's efforts in support of our customers and communities impacted by the Mosquito Fire. I'd like to thank the incident for affording me this opportunity to join you. I have some information which I think folks will appreciate hearing, and of course I'll be available for questions at the end as well. I'd like to start by noting that since the beginning of the event, PG&E has had 0 safety incidents. Our coworkers continue to work at a safe and determined pace to restore service to our customers and communities impacted by the fire. As of this evening, we have 522 customers without electric service due primarily to PG&E de-energizing overhead electrical equipment for firefighter safety. That eliminates the risk of electrical equipment placing our firefighters in harm's way, and we do that at the direction of the incident. Since the beginning of the event, we have had 20 of our safety infrastructure protection teams operating within the fire footprint. Those crews are pre-treating electric assets with fire retardant as a means of lessening or minimizing damage from the fire to those assets. This does a number of things. One, it promotes firefighter safety by lessening the amount of material or equipment or debris in a roadway, for example. It does also limit the extent of damage post-fire, allowing us to bring service back to our customers in a more timely manner. As of this morning, those Sept crews have treated more than 2,000 assets in the field and continue to do so in addition to supporting our crews as needed. We are partnering with the Placer Community Foundation and the El Dorado Community Foundation as an additional supportive measure for our customers who were affected by the fire. And we are committed to bringing service back to those who are without service as quickly and safely as possible. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that, Brandon. Next up from Placer County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant John Barnhart.
Thank you. Good evening. We'll start with there has been no change to evacuations and no new evacuation zones ordered. I'll move over to the map if it's ready. Again, you can go to the live map through our social media platforms or to placersheriff.org. You'll notice at the top of the page you can enter your address to see if you are affected by any of these zones. If in case we do have to make more evacuations, just type in your address and it'll take you right there. As you can see, the purple area is the fire, and around it is the red area, which is remains the evacuation order zone of Michigan Bluff, Forest Hill proper, and Todd Valley. As you can see, the yellow areas still indicate evacuation warning zones. As far as staffing is concerned, we still have deputies out on patrols 24/7. We have 20 deputies assigned and 13 of our allied agency partners assisting. As far as damage assessments, they have been initiated. We issued a post on our social media concerning Michigan Bluff, and if you did not see that and you are a resident of Michigan Bluff, please call area code 530-886-5390. As far as repopulation, we continue to get questions about when that's going to happen. We just ask your patience as that planning is being conducted, and we cannot repopulate until it's deemed safe. We've had a question about whether or not citizens can retrieve property, and until the areas are deemed safe, we cannot allow that to happen. In closing, I'd just like to say thank you to the communities for their continued support in this effort, and thank you for your patience and endurance during this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate that. Next up from El Dorado County Sheriff's Sergeant Alex. Sorry.
Hello, Alexander Sorry, Sheriff's Office for El Dorado County, and I'm the Public Information Officer. Today, I'll start it off with our staffing. We had 7 El Dorado County Sheriff's Office personnel dedicated to this fire today, and 30 mutual aids, so a total of 37 law enforcement personnel dedicated to the fire. As far as arrests go, we had 8 arrests and 1 citation total so far. We had 1 more arrest and 1 more citation. These arrests are people that we believe to be either intent or actually victimizing our community. As far as public information goes, I'll reiterate that you can go to the county website, and that is edcgov.us, and our social media pages, and then also for any displaced residents, 211 is a good option. Also, if you haven't already, sign up for evacuation notices, ready.edso.org. So far, there's been no change to any evacuation orders or warnings or road closures, so that all remains the same. Additionally, today, Animal Services has put out information that they will respond to any calls, and they offer to assist residents of evacuated areas to feed and water their pets. So they'll go respond out to your property if you give them a call. The phone number is 530-621-5795. Again, that's 530-621-5795. Lastly, I'll talk about DINS. So a DINS team is a damage inspection specialist team, and their role is to go out and identify properties that may or may not have been damaged in the affected area. So we know these are trying times for everyone that's been affected by this fire, and the DINS team can go in when it's safe. They have gone in today. They've been working, and as a result, we were able to put up a map on our website here, and we'll go over here and we'll talk about it a little bit. So if we go to the edcgov.us, and then click on the Mosquito Fire response information, and then scroll down, it should be in there for you, ready to view. Scroll back up, go back to the other ticker. Click on that one. And then you can go in here and view any properties. There's a legend on the left-hand side, and you can view properties with damage or no damage. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that, Sergeant. And next up is going to be with our CAL FIRE Unified Commander, Jim Hudson.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Obviously, for those of you that are monitoring, this is our 3rd community meeting, and if we're doing these, it means the fire is still burning relatively uncontrolled in some areas, and there is still a threat out there. I'd like to start off tonight by reaffirming our priorities and goals as unified commanders between CAL FIRE, United States Forest Service, El Dorado County Sheriff's priorities, as well as Placer County Sheriff's. As we work through this, We've said that our priorities are life and property, and that hasn't gone unchanged, and we will continue to move forward that. And that does have an impact for you being taken out of your home. We're not going to allow people to be put in harm's way, but we are working tirelessly around the clock and accessing and leveraging all the assets and resources available to the state, to the U.S. Forest Service, accessing mutual aid from our local government partners. We are working around the clock, I can assure you that. But we are making small gains. If you can see, there's some black line on the map this morning that wasn't there the day before. And if you look at this fire around the communities, we are going direct as possible. Operations gave an excellent briefing there of what we're doing and what our priorities are. And we will continue to work around the fire's edge as close as possible. There are areas where it is challenging and we will have to go in direct. But our goal is to keep this fire in the smallest footprint possible. As we work around the clock and leverage those assets, we have the full breadth of our abilities as fire suppression resources and law enforcement across the state of California. That's ground resources, heavy equipment, aircraft, and night flying aircraft dropping water and providing aerial reconnaissance across this fire. So we ask you for your patience. We'll continue to update you. We're well aware of the situation at hand. Our goal is to get you home as soon as possible. And like I said, keep this fire in the smallest footprint possible and bring some normalcy to you and stabilize to where we were before this fire ignited. So again, thank you for your patience. We'll continue to update you.
Thank you, Commander. That concludes the formal portion of our meeting. Now we're going to go into questions and answers. First up, we're going to bring back Ernie Villa, our Operations Section Chief, with a question or an answer with your question.
So my first question here is how wide does a dozer, how wide does a fire break need to be effective? I think it's a really good question. I think a lot goes into how that we look at those things. I think a lot about its position on the terrain, weather factors that kind of play into how wide that should be. The wider the line, it helps with radiant heat source ignitions, but doesn't always mean it's the most effective to be too wide. So there's a lot that plays into that. A lot of times the folks on the ground that are operating within these areas every day build those lines to their comfort level. A lot of times coming down these steep ridge lines, their safety is actually within the width of that break. So a lot of times it could be a little bit wider based on their comfort levels with going down into these steeper drainages. A lot of our folks are down here on foot. There's not a lot of quick, rapid ways to get them out of there. So they play a lot of things into the decision making to make these things happen. Like I've said, it looks different when you look at it from a map. If you go out there and take a look at this at some point, you'll see that these areas that we're trying to work and operate in are pretty challenging. So there's a lot that goes in how wide those things will work. Obviously, a little bit wider, the better can help, but there's actually prep work that goes on outside of the width of that line that is done to reduce the fuel loading or trees, sticks, and brush that are adjacent to the line. So really good question. Do appreciate it. Next question is, how is Stumpy Meadows area holding up? That's down here on the southeast end of the fire here. We do have quite a bit of fire established down here in the Rubicon River. If you're familiar with this area, which I think a lot of you are, this is very challenging terrain, similar to what we're dealing with over here in the American River. So there is quite a bit of heat here. The crews are looking at the operational overhead, looking at an opportunity to come out here probably a little bit more indirect. There isn't a safe position for us to cross this land feature, so they are looking at it, but there is quite a bit of heat. We're not out of the woods yet, but we'll continue to work on that area, and as soon as we get clear air to get aircraft in there, we'll be utilizing those along with our ground assets to make sure we can secure that area. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Next up, we've got some questions for El Dorado County Sheriff. We're going to bring back up Sergeant Alexander.
Thank you. I have a couple questions here that I'll answer. Any time frame on when 193 in Greenwood will be open for residents, businesses, and post office? At this time, we don't have estimated time for lifting the evacuation orders. The El Dorado County Sheriff's Department has a huge section of Highway 49 facing the South Fork of American River Canyon on warning status, yet on all of the CAL FIRE documents, our area is not listed. Why is that? Are we in the evac warning area as the map shows or not? So if you go to our website and look at our evacuation orders and warning areas, those are correct. So if you fall within one of those, then you're in the warning order area. If you don't, then you're not in one. The next question, we understand everyone is doing their best, but as a community who is in the sitting waiting status or who have had to leave their homes, it would be helpful to know if there is still a significant concern that the fire will travel towards our community. We now have more evac centers up in our community, so does this mean you expect more mandatory evacuations to occur, and if so, where? We are constantly working with fire on evacuations and evacuation warnings and orders, and we will continually update the public as we get it, information on the fire movement. Next question is, will people be arrested for leaving the mandatory evacuation zones trying to leave? Once you leave your residence and exit the evacuation order areas, you cannot return back into an order area. That's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sergeant. One of the questions that was submitted earlier online was, what kind of donations can folks give to first responders? First responders on this fire have everything they need. They're set up real well at our camps. gave them plenty of food, plenty of water, plenty of rest. So thank you. Donations, again, can be given to either different Red Cross agencies or different organizations throughout your communities. Firefighters have what they need, but we appreciate that. We really thank you for your thoughts. We have another question for Ernie Villa, so we're going to bring back our Operations Section Chief.
Back with you here. So wanting more details as far as the containment efforts on the northeast side of the fire. I think it's another good question, kind of provide some more details for you. So out here kind of on the north and the east side of the fire, these longer drainages do extend out towards the east and to the north pretty far. What we have out here is older burn scars from past fires. So the firefighters are looking at taking advantage of those opportunities, which will play into how well we can gain containment out here. We'll be taking advantage of those. Currently, as you can see, there is no containment on the northeast side of the fire here. We do have a lot of resources moving into this area here, as we were able to take care of the higher priority down in the lower section of the fire here, where we had a huge amount of structured defense at the current time. There was a lot of life and property threat down here. As we continue to mitigate the threat down here, it helps us push resources out to the further into the fire where there's still values at risk out here, but they weren't the highest priority at the given time, so it allows us to push people out here. So over the coming days, I think that as the crews continue to do the good work like they have down here on the southwest side, we're going to continue to push folks out here, and they're going to continue to try to gain containment over the next few days. Currently, they're looking at all those things out there that they can use to their advantage, from the great fuels work that's happened over the last few years, previous burn scars. They have all that information. They're utilizing that to their advantage, and they've taken advantage of some of the cooler weather that we did experience and kind of have experienced the last few days coming out of that heat wave that we experienced. So hopefully I answered your questions. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. And we've got a couple more questions for our Placer County Sheriff. So we're going to bring back up Lieutenant Josh Barnhart. There you go.
Thank you. One question was, when will Todd Valley repopulate? And that is really a determination that Unified Command has to make. And again, we just have to make sure that that area is safe with all participating parties before we can open that back up. Another question is, are people subject to arrest that haven't evacuated but want to now? If that's for you, you can give us a call and just make sure that you're doing it safely, not through a zone that is being actively fought by firefighters. You can call us on our dispatch at 530-886-5376. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate that. So that's all the questions we have for this evening. I want to thank Vicki, our ASL interpreter. I want to thank you for joining us. Visit us back again tomorrow. Thank you.